Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. A little celebration, and I would like to invite to drink some of my red wine. And that is President of the United States of America and the President of the Russian Federation. They spoke over the phone, and it seems like the world comes together. Well, it's not going to be like that. Main points. If Russia needed, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of Russians dead and how many hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians dead in order to gain respect and access to the big dogs table, then so be it. Russia achieved that. NATO lost, Russia won. And since the United States of America is NATO, United States of America lost. Why? Because Trump understood that going like this would continue to something not good for all of us. Now, earlier today, I saw this article right here. And when I saw this article earlier today, I said, it's clear NATO lost. That's the word, NATO lost. That is, they will not fight Russia through Ukraine anymore. And this is what the Pentagon chief says: Ukraine's NATO accession and return to the pre-2014 borders are unrealistic. Well, this is the chief of the Pentagon. He said, no NATO for Ukraine. That's exactly what the Russians said. And the Russians will keep their territories. That's the conclusion. And when I read this one earlier today, on the 12th of February, at 4:22 p.m., I was like, it's clear these guys lost the war. And when I read this one, according to Ukrainska Pravda, Pentagon chief explains Trump's plan to bring Russia to negotiating table. And I was, oh yeah, what is it? And when I read what their plan was, stated here, I said, Russia is not going to come over there. And this is what I found. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has said that lower energy prices, supposedly, combined with more effective energy sanctions, would help to bring Russia to the negotiating table to resolve the war in Ukraine. When I saw this one, I said, these guys are imbeciles. Quote, lower energy prices, coupled with more effective enforcement of energy sanctions, will help bring Russia to the table. I said, yeah, okay, got it. But later today, I found this one, Associated Press. Trump upends U.S. policy on Ukraine and says he and Putin have agreed to bring talks and ending the war. Fantastic. That's fantastic. I have more titles and I'm going to let you know what they talked because I was in the room together with my wine. Cheers. Dry, full-bodied wine. I made it out of Concord grapes. All right, let's move on and see what's going on here. So basically what happened here, President Trump upended 3 years of U.S. policy towards Ukraine on Wednesday, saying that he and the Russian leader, now he's the leader, he's not the dictator, Vladimir Putin, had agreed to begin negotiations on ending the war following a sudden prisoner swap. Yeah, they didn't give a shit about that one. They didn't, nothing. Trump said he spent more than an hour on the phone with Putin and I'm quoting Trump, I think we're on the way to getting peace. He noted that he later spoke with Ukrainian president, because he's Ukrainian, Volodymyr Zelensky, but he was non-committal about whether Ukraine would be an equal participant in the U.S. negotiations with Russia. They are not, because it was about the U.S. interests and the guys who harness U.S. and the Russians. Ukraine was just used like a lady of the night. Unfortunately, hundreds of thousands of people died and the economy is destroyed. Corruption is rampant. You got some millionaires, possibly billionaires in Ukraine right now. And you have a lot of weapons on the black market. They're going to show up on the American skies pretty soon and in Western Europe. I predict that 100%. So with all this, they dropped the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians were just the used, you know what. As I said, why should you talk with this guy here when you can't solve your problem? Don't talk to Zelensky. Talk with Russia said it's illegitimate. Nevertheless, I'm going to talk with the manager, with the guy who is in charge of it, which is the United States of America. So I'm quoting Trump again. I think President Putin wants peace and President Zelensky wants peace and I want peace. No shit. I just want to see people stop being killed. How about the Middle East, my boy? Yeah. All right, so he said, people didn't really know what President Putin's thoughts were, but I think I can say with great confidence he wants to see it ended also, so that's good. And we're going to work toward getting it ended as fast as possible. So what happened? Is gonna get Putin to the big boy, it's only one, big boy table. But big boy table. Trump and Putin start talks to end Ukraine war. There's the guy. Okay, good for you. We'll see. Now, to start right here, Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin have agreed to immediately start negotiations to end the war in Ukraine, sparking fears of favorable peace deal for Moscow. Well, because you lost, that's why. What are you gonna do? Now, what do you think will happen? I got more information about what these guys say they talk. So Putin and Trump will see one another in Kremlin and White House. So Trump will go to the Kremlin and Putin is invited to come to the White House. So we're gonna see the yesterday criminal to the White House. Well, we see many criminals at the White House in the past, so it's not gonna be a change of rules there. And we're gonna see Trump visiting the criminal. So how is that working? Well, it works like this. These guys have no backbone. The problem is a lot of people their lives are destroyed and countries are whack. That's what it is. And let me show you here. Mr. Trump also said he would visit Russia and invite Putin to Washington as part of efforts to break the deadlock and save millions of lives. However, the announcement raised fears that Ukraine and Europe were being frozen out of negotiations. No, they have no power. Europe is US's biatch, and Ukraine, it was and still is so far United States' lapdog that has to attack, and that's it. We agreed to work together. What does that mean? As equal partners. Europe, go and beat it. All right. He tries to buy Putin against China now, very closely. Ooh la la, including visiting each other's nations. We have also agreed to have our respective teams start negotiations immediately. Fantastic. So what do you think? Speaking of the Oval Office, Mr. Trump said his first in-person meeting with Putin would be in Saudi Arabia in the not too distant future. Saudi Arabia, Mr. Mohammed bin Salman. About 5 years ago, Mohammed bin Salman was considered a murderer because of what's his name? Hijgochi's death. What's his name? Man, I can remember his name. You know, the guy that was dismantled in the Saudi Arabia's embassy in Turkey. Hijgochi. I can't remember his name. Jesus Christ. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about? All right, and I know his name. But hey, maybe the celebration is too rough. Anyway, you find it. So Saudi Arabia, they will go over there and then they will meet one another. And this is equal treatment. That's exactly what the Russians said. We want equal treatment. We don't want to be looked down, lectured about our democracy and our freedoms. Look in your little yard and see how things are. All right, let's go to the last article. Because I'm going to tell you what's next. And what's next? I suspect that there will be a massive incident, negative incident, occurring in the United States of America that would prevent these guys to get together. I suspect it's going to be organized by some agencies, and then all focus will be, and the blame will be, see, we can't trust those guys. With the help of the so-called operatives in the media. It's too good to be true. It is too good to be true. Remember when Trump spoke with Putin in Helsinki? It was what, 2000, I can't remember, 2019 I think, or 2000, something like that. Remember? And they spent time together alone in a room with the translators. Obviously there were people listening and so on, but not their teams. And the media was like, what did you talk? What did you ask Putin about the interference in American elections? Sorry to break the news, you intervened in the Russian elections during Boris Yeltsin's elections. Twice. You had over there advisors from the Secretary of State Department. You put money in Boris Yeltsin's campaign. Shut your pie hole. That's direct influence. But hey, the Russians intervene with with some Macedonians on Facebook. I know too much. So I suspect, as I said, something will derail all this kumbaya, and I will not drink red wine. I'm going to drink, I don't know, white wine, Muscat. All right, let's see what this guy from The Independent has to say. Trump says he spoke to Putin about immediately starting talks on ending Ukraine war. Very good, very good. This is, I think, in Helsinki. So President Trump did this, immediately open negotiations on how to end the war. Now, opening the negotiation is not like the war is over, but the first step is done. And he says here, in a statement posted on the Truth Social platform, Trump said he had a lengthy and highly productive phone call with Putin, during which they discussed Ukraine, the Middle East, energy, artificial intelligence, and power of the dollars, and various other subjects. So the Russians got the Americans by their snot, brought him over here and said, we're going to fuck you up economically with China and our alliance with North Korea, Iran, and China. We're going to fuck you up. You can do shit to us. We still sell our oil and natural gas around the globe. You don't have the power yet to impose sanctions on all this planet. You have 35 countries. That's all you got. It's 193 over there. So you got what? Not even 1/3 of the countries on your side. So beat it. These guys lost. You didn't dare to face Putin in Ukraine face to face. Why? With these guys with the pink hair and with snip balls, what are you going to do with the Ruskies? Nothing. You tried for 3 years with brave Ukrainian guys that are not like that. Unfortunately, nothing happened. Nothing happened, only disaster. So that's how they got it. And I say, we're going to attack your dollar. We're going to make a bank in BRICS bank, and we're going to make it. We're going to challenge your bullshit, right? Your world reserve currency status that you impose on everybody else. That's a racket, by the way. And we know what's going to happen. We're going to start doing business on our national currencies. And we're not going to use your bullshit. So the Americans have to start working. So all these things that they talk about, we talk about the Ukraine, talk about the Middle East, energy, artificial intelligence, the power of the dollars, and various other subjects. All this were the Russians playing hard, including Africa. Americans are out, the Russians are in, the French are out. What is it? You got Millet. That's all you got and I think you got one more dictator somewhere in South America. That's all. Maduro is with Putin. What's his name? Lula da Silva of Brazil is with Putin, or at least not with the other guys. The only one you got that delusional Millet in Argentina. That's all. And if he's not playing right, the population will take him out, or the military, one of the two. So let's see what else this guy said. Trump said that both he and Putin, who ordered the invasion of Ukraine and claimed it was an effort to rid the former Soviet satellite of the so-called Nazis in the Western aligned government, want to stop the millions of deaths taking place as a result of the war Putin started, added by these guys. This is added by the Independent. That's not what Putin said. Remember, the quote stops before. Right? Where is that? Pass it already? No, there's bullshit over there. All right, right here. All right, want to stop the millions of deaths and taking place. Pop, and then as a result of this is how they make the news for you. The same here again. The so-called Nazis. Again, this is how they shape the news for you. Instead of these guys, you already know that the Independent will be negative towards any peace efforts by the United States of America with Putin. Guarantee you that. By this, by that. All right, what else we have here? They say here the president continued announcing negotiation team, blah, blah, blah. And they tell us what happened with the guys in the first two. Right there, no NATO for you and no territories. Russia won, NATO lost. You can look at it however you want. I know, I made this prediction for a long time. Now, this is not the end of it. No, it's just the beginning. If they are not destroyed by that great event, negative event that could happen. And I suspect the agencies are planning on that. So why? To stop all this Trump revolution. I said it like this before. When the Americans will agree to negotiate with the Russians and talk to the Russians, and I hoped will push the Europeans where they belong and Zelensky to the gutter, I said the media will portray this and Trump as a victory, or at least as a draw. It's not a draw. I tell you why it's not a draw. Why Putin invaded, or Russia invaded, Ukraine? The operatives tell us that it was unprovoked. He just wants territory because Russia is an imperialistic mindset and wants territories. Why? Irrational, like the guy in the Second World War. He hated this because he was irrational. Okay, all right. So this is the narrative here. But the Russians explained clearly why they entered over there. Because a legitimate government was overthrown with the help of Western agencies in 2014, Viktor Yanukovych in Ukraine. The traitors who took over were immediately recognized by the democratic countries who love democracy. And then they started infringing the Russian, I don't like Russian speaking population, I say ethnic Russians in Ukraine, their rights. They start preventing them from having their political parties, mass media. And those guys said, we don't recognize you, the guys who took over in Kiev, we don't recognize you. And those guys sent the tanks. And Putin said, let's negotiate. They negotiated. Minsk 1, Minsk 2. Zelensky got elected on a peace platform, that kind of peace platform. And when he got over there in power, he said, I don't like anything about this Minsk agreements. Nothing. The Russians tried to negotiate in 2021. This guy said, beat it. What are you going to do? Are you strong enough to challenge NATO? And Putin said, okay, well, let's go. It's only rock and roll. So they need 3 years and so many lives and so much destruction and so many displacement for what? For these guys to say, nice try. But hey, we didn't lose. You lost. What you wanted to do is to get NATO into Ukraine, troops over there, and somehow destabilize Russia and take over its natural resources, destroy the alliance, or how we want to call it, between Russia and China. They'll take over its nuclear power, nuclear arsenal, control its political system and its culture, basically turn it into a Romania, like bullshit. And the Russian says, niet, no, you lied to us in 1991 when you said no 1-inch expansion eastward of NATO. You lied to us. So I hope this thing, the Russians will negotiate with a pistol like this. Yeah, let's negotiate, let's talk. Yeah, okay. This could be, remember, if Trump signs something today, tomorrow he can take a shit on it. There's no guarantees. They lied before, they will lie again. They all lie, let's put it this way. But in this context, evidence shows that one organization moved towards Russia's territories, not the other way around. So who is the aggressor? If you tell me, well, that's okay, how about Russia move some troops in Cuba and some nuclear weapons over there? Or maybe in Nicaragua? Or maybe in Venezuela? Are you okay with that? I guarantee you not. So you see, it doesn't work that way. No. Arming someone in the detriment of the security of another country, you can't do that. I mean, it's a principle. I think it was like Montreux, or it was in Switzerland, 1977 agreement. You can't just arm a country and say you just are just okay. You destroy the balance of forces. Yes, US has natural interest, and it has national interest, and it has a sphere of influence. They denied Russia's sphere of influence. Why? Because they could. But not no more. This is a recognition or an admission of impotence, of limitation. I'm glad, because how can you improve yourself? By recognizing where you fail. I fail here, I need to improve here. And then you design, you start planning. How do I get better? And I turn the weaknesses into strength. That's how you improve. So I'm glad the Americans, from their delusional, we're the masters of this planet, they realized, hold on, it doesn't work that way no more. Peace on earth. It's not going to be. Anyway, we'll see what's happening. What's happening, I think they will meet. They will negotiate. Trump did not dictate squat. I'm going to tell Putin, I'm going to tell him that nuclear weapons are going to hit Moscow. Blah, blah, blah. No. As, what's his name, Peskov said. Peskov's also had a little comment over there somewhere. Let me see if I find Peskov for you. And that's going to be in Saudi Arabia. Remember, Peskov said that Donald Trump is very smooth in conversations, unlike the way that these guys are portraying. Right here, Peskov. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said the conversation between Trump and Putin covered a good deal of ground, including the Middle East and Iran, but that Ukraine was the main focus. Peskov said Trump called for a quick cessation of hostilities and a peaceful settlement. Good. And that, and I'm quoting, President Putin in his turn emphasized the need to remove the root causes of the conflict and agreed with Trump that a long-term settlement could be achieved through peace talks. The root cause is NATO's expansion. That's what it is. The Russian president supported one of the main theses of the US president that the time has come for our two countries to work together. I hope so. Is Trump going to be allowed? We'll see. Peskov told reporters, and I'm quoting again, Peskov, the Russian president invited the US president to visit Moscow and expressed readiness to host US officials in Russia for issues of mutual interest, naturally including Ukraine, the Ukrainian settlement. Excellent. Excellent, my friends. We are asking for security on our money, Trump said, noting of Ukraine. They've agreed to it. Trump, I read during this article, I'm not going to look over, he said that it doesn't guarantee Ukraine's security. So that means dropped Ukraine just like that. And he says right here, Putin, I believe this nation views Putin and Russia as a great competitor in the region, at times an adversary. That's what it is. Nothing about Ukraine without Ukraine. Blah, blah. You have to know your place, my friends. So, they say they will not provide security to Ukraine. That means I drop you. That is Russia's sphere of influence. So, call it however you want. These guys are going to say, we won. You didn't win. You lost. But hey, the Russians are smooth enough and diplomatic enough to say, yeah, we're going to talk. Let's don't talk about who won and who lost. You know how you're going to assess that? By the actions. How Ukraine is going to be dropped. Ukrainska will be dropped to the Russians and they will cooperate here and there. That's how you're going to see who lost and who won. Remember, it was not Russia attacking NATO. It was NATO. Thank you very much for being with me again today. And before I do that, stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.